Woman from Georgia, Ms. Handel, is recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Agent Strzok, for being here. I have found your testimony today, frankly, to be quite remarkable in its disingenuousness. And you have shown a disturbing degree of denialism about your actions and the impact of those actions. I think we would all agree that everyone does have personal viewpoints. That is very true. But Agent Strzok, there is a very big difference between someone expressing his or her political views generally and someone leading an FBI investigation, making highly negative and explosive comments about the actual target of that investigation. Would you agree? That's a yes or no.
Rephrase the question. I don't understand the.
You have a really
yes or no
awesome talent for filibustering. You might want to think about running for the Senate. I'll just say again, you were the lead investigator, one of the lead investigators, and you made highly negative and explosive comments about the actual target of an investigation. That is distinctly different from an individual expressing his or her political views. You were in a position that you needed to be at a higher, much higher level of standard, and you failed to reach that. Your assertion that your statements do not constitute bias is, well, absurd. The facts are this. The FBI Inspector General testified before this very body that you did indeed exhibit bias. And further, in his report, he detailed numerous examples of investigated steps that were not, quote, by the books, as you just testified. What I also find stunning is that someone in your role with the responsibilities that you've had engaged in such grossly unprofessional, unacceptable, and unethical behavior. And now, truly ironic, did I hear you say earlier that you're in a senior position in the HR division for the FBI?
Yes, ma'am. Currently at the AD.
That's very ironic. So let me ask you this. You were in a supervisory role at the FBI. Suppose you found out that one of your direct reports was sending the kind of text messages that you were sending about the target of an investigation that they were working on. What action would you take?
Ma'am, if they were sending personal opinion about a political matter, that's their business. I think given my experience to date, I would caution them against doing that on a government device. That is entirely separate and distinct from an individual that was not a political candidate, that did not have a kind of First Amendment protection attached to it.
Right. Suppose that you found out that one of your direct reports was having an extramarital affair with a colleague or with someone outside of the Bureau. What action would you take?
Ma'am, it depends. If it was against the FBI's regulation in terms of if it was somebody in their chain of command above or below them, which is inappropriate or not allowed by our regulations, I would tell them and report that. If it was otherwise permitted in our regulations, I would probably talk to them and say, hey, look, I'm aware of this, and you need to be aware that, and just take into consideration what you're doing in the appearance of it.
So obviously you understand the gravity of the transgressions. Engaging in the kind of behavior that you've been engaging in, especially with the extramarital affair, it opens up an agent to exploitation and even blackmail, given the fact that you have and currently hold a high-level security clearance. Did you ever discuss your relationship with Ms. Page with HR? Or anyone around your security clearance?
They were well aware of it
When did they become aware of it?
Well, when it was kind of made very public by the media after it was leaked
it was
late last year. But ma'am, I can tell you, if I can, your premise though that it makes it susceptible to blackmail, I never could have been blackmailed or coerced by the nature of that relationship. That is not the nature of my patriotism and the nature of what I believe in this country.
You are asked a question about that. There's a reason that security clearances ask those kinds of questions. Did you ever advise Mr. Mueller of your relationship with Ms. Page?
I did not.
Why?
It didn't strike me as relevant.
You have a lot to learn about human resources. Wow. It is absolutely relevant. There should have been conversations. I find it interesting that there was no discussion that the two of you shouldn't both be together on that same investigation. Mr. Strzok, no reasonable person could not be concerned about your actions in this investigation. No reasonable person could not be concerned about this situation involving yourself. So thank you. Mr. Chairman, I yield back.
The chair recognizes